What is something you want to be remembered by? Today we're talking to Kathleen Ringel, a cancer survivor, hospice social worker, and adjunct professor at Fordham University who teaches palliative care. Kathleen has dedicated her life to guiding others through some of the most challenging moments we can face. In this episode, we'll explore how her grit mindset helped her overcome cancer, unravel the true meaning of palliative care and hospice social work, and tackle those essential or often difficult end-of-life conversations. Kathleen, it is such a great day to interview you. How did your experience with cancer shape your perspective on life, especially at a young age?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I would say at that point in my life, I was 35 years old, and I was really unhappy in my life. I was unhappy with my career. I was unhappy in my marriage. I was unhappy with who I was as a person. And when you're told, at that time, the doctor told me I had about 18 months to live. And when you're given that kind of timestamp, right, it made me reevaluate everything in my life. So if I only have X amount of time, is this the person that I want to be? You know, is this the life that I want to lead? Is this how I want to be remembered? And the answer to those questions was a resounding no. So I felt like I had a very short period of time to really get myself together and become the person I always said I was, but never was. You know, I said I was a spiritual person, or I said I was a joyful person or a content person, and I wasn't. So it really forced me to make some changes in my life.
Awesome. So this gives you a chance for some life reflection and also help you rediscover the meaning of life.
Yeah, it was, what do I want to do? It is, my husband at the time, is this my partner? Am I doing a disservice to both myself and to him by being in this relationship that both of us knew we wanted out of, but never made the move? And then especially when I got sick, he would never make that move. He was, he was wonderful in that sense, where he really, stepped up and helped take care of me, but we were both very unhappy. And I thought to myself, well, if I only have 2 years left, I really want to live them. So I started to travel, and I made a bucket list of all the places that I wanted to go to. And I sent it out to my friends. I said, these are all the places that I want to go to, that I want to visit. Who's in? And one friend would say, I'll go to New Mexico with you. I'll go to Portland with you. I'll go to, Santa Fe. It was Sedona. It was all of these. Everyone stepped up, and I started having these adventures, and I started writing about it. And that's when I started my blog, and my writing had kind of taken off.
Whoa, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So how did you stay mentally strong and resilient after going through such intense personal struggles?
I think I was someone who never really chose the easy path in life. So, and I come from a very kind of gritty family of, kind of just buckle down and do what you have to do, right? And, I was a teenage mother. I, was extremely broke at one time in my life with this young child. I had dropped out of college. So it was all of these things that I wasn't someone who had this like super cushy life. I had always had some form of adversity to kind of overcome, even though more often than not, it was my own doing. But so when I became sick, I had a mother who was like, okay, you're going to do this. You're allowed an hour to cry, and then you're done, and then move on and do what you have to do. So I had that instilled in me. And I think I allowed myself to be angry. I think so often cancer patients are forced into this box of having to be the happy, inspiring cancer patient. And that is so unfair. And it's such a heavy weight to have to carry that I was like, you know what? I'm really pissed off. I'm really angry that my son is 15 years old, almost, 16, and he has to deal with this. I'm so angry that I can't have any more children. I'm angry I'm losing my hair. I'm angry I'm sick all the time. I'm angry I have to think about things that people my age don't have to think about. Like death and illness and long-term planning and all of these things. So it was ingrained in me, but it was also something that I really worked on, of like, just push through it.
Just push through it.
Yeah, but there's no easy answer. There's no, you just have to do it. And, tapping into your why will help you. Why are you doing this? Is it so you could become the person you want to become? Is it because you want to live to see your children grow up? Is it because you want to fall in love? What is your why? And in those moments when you're down, remember your why. That's really how I got through it.
Why?
Plus, my mother would have yelled at me.
Why is such a great personal motivator? Why are you doing this? So,
right.
Did you experience as a patient influence your decision to teach at Fordham? And what are some of the hopes that you want to pass on to your students?
It definitely was. Again, being 35 years old, when I had colon cancer. So it wasn't at that time, it was an older person's disease. So I'd go into the waiting room and everyone would be 60 plus. And they would look at me with what I called the sad cancer face. I would go in there and they'd be like, and I said to myself, I would pray, and I would pray to God, and I would say, if I get through this, I promise I will live a life of service. And when what I wanted to do was to help young adult cancer patients, because I understood what it was like. And I gave space for the anger. I gave space for the disappointment that, as I had said before, a lot of people don't give to cancer patients. So it made me want to go back to school and position myself to be able to help other cancer patients. And that, going back to school is what led me. A lot of the professors at Fordham were wonderful, but none of them were cancer patients. So none of them, they talked about palliative care and hospice care in in that othering, what I call the othering, which is there's me, the healthy person, and then there's you, the sick person, right? There's a very, very fine line between the world of the healthy and the sick. And once you've crossed over into that, sick world, you can never go back, and you don't view the world the same way. So I wanted to take that world view, that understanding that I had, so that I could sit across from someone else and say, I see you, I get it, I understand. And to be able to teach the next generation of social workers, maybe they haven't gone through it, but I promise you, you will know someone who's going to go through it, whether it's a family member or a friend or yourself. Yeah, I think it's like 1 in 3 people, or some odd statistic like that. 1 in 3 people will get cancer in their lifetime. So be prepared to have these conversations. And what I want to impart to my students is, empathy and compassion and understanding of the hell that is this illness.
Wow. Such an amazing story. Teaching what you're preaching. So what exactly does a social hospice worker do? And how is it different from other social works?
So it is completely, I've only worked as an oncology social worker. So I've worked with cancer patients, and now I work in hospice. There are so many different avenues of social work. I have friends who work in schools with children. I have other friends who work in addiction. I will say the difference between oncology social work and hospice social work is that in oncology social work, there's hope that they will recover, right? In hospice, you're helping the person come to terms with the fact that they won't. You're helping the family come to terms with the ending of their loved one's life. So in that sense, it's very different, because it's a different kind of hope. You could still have hope. You can have hope that you will die peacefully, that you won't be in pain, that you will have maybe some closure, right? That's as opposed to oncology, where each visit brings, I had patients and myself. I remember walking into my hospital, and I would unknowingly take a deep inhale. I would brace myself, because I didn't know what that appointment would be bringing, right? It's very different in hospice. They've already been told that the end of their life is coming at some point in the near future. So it's really, what I've learned is that I think everyone wants to know that their life mattered, that their life had meaning, and helping them realize that they've had an impact on the world, right? Helping them find maybe some joy, maybe some closure, maybe some peace at the end of their life. That, to me, is an absolute, my career choice, my job is such a source of purpose for me.
Wow. I love what you do, but just to make it more clear, where does palliative care tie into oncology social work?
Okay. So palliative care is really pain relief pain in all of its forms. So whether it's physical pain or psychological pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. So a palliative care team can have a palliative doctor, a nurse, a social worker, and a chaplain to kind of cover all of those areas, right? There are many people who are in treatment and are angry with God, angry with their maker, right? They see it as a punishment, or they see it as maybe they didn't lead a good enough life, or so that would be spiritual pain. And we would have a chaplain who would talk to them about that. Emotional pain might be, I have had patients when I worked in oncology who had severed ties with their children, right? And that was an emotional pain. So, maybe it's walking them through that. Maybe it's helping them come to terms with it, or maybe it's reaching out to that child and seeing if we could bring them together, and then as far as, physical pain, the medications that we have now are phenomenal for treating all of these side effects of, cancer treatment, or, even for hospice, physical pain. So that's really what comprises a palliative care team.
Wow, many people working together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And besides professionals, you could be a friend or a family member. So how can you better support people who are facing serious illness if you're a friend or a family member?
Be present. Be present. And while so many people will reach out to me and say, oh, my friend was just diagnosed with cancer. I want to do something for them. What should I do? And I say, anything, right? Because that person who's sick, what you don't want to do is say, if there's anything you need, let me know. Because that's putting the onus on the patient to have to reach out and first of all, and figure out what they need, then tell you what they need. They have so much on their plate, just do something. So if you know that they're having, let's say, treatment, well, send food over that day. Maybe their favorite restaurant, maybe a restaurant. Send food over so that the family doesn't have to, think about cooking. Maybe pick up their kids from school. Maybe that would help there, or babysit, or whatever it is, their laundry, and depending on how close you are with them, a housekeeper for the day. Whatever you can do it. Like I would have so many people who would say to me, anything you need. Well, I don't know what I need. And I'm a very prideful person. I don't always ask when I need something. So I so appreciated. I remember getting gifts in the mail from people that I went to elementary school with. One girl sent me this care package with a really cozy blanket, a pair of pajamas, some microwave popcorn, and some DVDs. Like, how thoughtful is that, right? Like, she didn't ask me, she just, remember we watched this movie when we were kids. Things like that are really, really thoughtful and so deeply appreciated. And allow them the space to cry or to be angry. Something that I say to my students is, don't give the platitudes of, you got this, F cancer, you'll beat this. Like, just hold space. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're going through this. This must be really tough for you. I'm here for you. And allow them to just speak. I think so often we're so uncomfortable with someone else's pain and someone else's sadness that we just want to make it better. We just want, and that's for the other person. That's not for the patient. The patient, isn't often given the space to really be authentic about their feelings. So that's what I think is the greatest gift that you could give to a loved one going through this.
Wow. Presence matters a lot.
Absolutely.
The whole world to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another difficult thing besides public speaking, I feel like, is what advice would you give to people that are having those tough end of life conversation, and how would you even open this conversation?
So I have a patient whose daughter reached out to me because the daughter said, my mom asked me if she was dying, and I don't know what to say to her. Now this patient's on hospice, and that's a legitimate question. I mean, that's a very uncomfortable question to be asked, right? So my advice was, turn it back to her, right? Say, do you think that you're dying? Has anything changed that has made you feel this way? And then see where the conversation goes, but keep checking in. And if she says, yes, I do, are you afraid? What can I do for you to allay your fears? I just want you to know you won't be alone. I'm here for you. Just kind of tapping into, because what that person is really asking is based in fear, right? Maybe they're afraid of dying alone. Maybe they're afraid of being in pain. So kind of keep drilling down. What are you afraid of? If you're in pain, we can manage that. If you're afraid of being alone, I will be here. You know what I'm saying? I had another patient, a conversation that I just had this morning with a husband who refused to believe that his wife was dying. And he was saying, she just needs to get out of bed. She just needs to walk. And it was compassionately challenging those beliefs, right? Do you really believe that if she just got out of bed, that she would survive? And he was quiet. And I said, sometimes the body can only fight for so long, right? And what we're seeing now is her body needing to rest. So when she's resting, what does that bring up for you? When you see her in bed for these prolonged periods of time, what's that bringing up for you? And he said, I can't imagine my life without her. Now, his children wouldn't talk to him about this, right? They were afraid to have this conversation with him. But so he was so angry, and he was so combative with his kids, with my organization. He was angry. The anger was masking the sadness and the despair this man had about losing his wife of 65 years. Imagine waking up. You've experienced every high and low with this person. You have lived with this person longer than you've been alive. Longer than you've been alive without them. And you're losing them. And he did not want to face that. we have to be compassionate. You know, we have to have empathy and to allow someone to express their pain and hold space for that, because this man was in pain. And I think that really is the greatest gift that we can give to another person, is allow them authenticity and say, you know, I'm not going anywhere. You're not scaring me. It's okay. Right. And I'm in a position, because I'm removed enough from the family that I can step in and hold these big emotions. Right. And I think it allows me insight into the human psyche in a way that I never would have been able to have without this job.
Wow. Is there any kind of miracle stories where the patient got better, or maybe comes to realizes that maybe they come to term with terminal illness?
Yeah. So my miracle stories are peaceful endings, right? I had a patient who loved her family so much and was the epitome of the grandmother, right? And we talked about, she was so sad about leaving her family and her grandchildren. And I said, you know, what do you want to be remembered for? And she said, how much I love them. And I said, how did you express that love? And she said, oh, we always baked and we always cooked together. And I said, oh, do you have, you know, recipes? So I do these legacy projects with some patients. And for her, we created a cookbook. We went through all of her pictures and all of her recipes. So you would open the book, and one page would be her making rolling matzo balls with her grandchildren. And the other page would be her matzo ball soup recipe. And then the next one would be another picture of her baking something. And then it would be the recipe. And I made copies for her children and her grandchildren. That was her legacy, her love. Food was love for her. So she died peacefully, knowing that there was a part of her that would carry on through the next generations. Again, going back to, we all want to know that we matter. We all want to know that we won't be forgotten, that we've had an impact. And she had a deep impact on me. And she will have an impact on generations in her family.
Wow. Legacy projects. Wow.
Yeah.
Leave a piece of you to your family. What an amazing idea.
Yeah. And you can do them with books. I've done them with music playlists. I had a father who had 3 very young children. If I remember correctly, they ranged between like 5 and 12 years old. And our legacy project was, what are the songs that you want them to hear to make them think of you? Are there songs that you sang to them? Are there some? So we created this playlist of all songs that made him think of his children, and he wanted his children to hear them and think of him. So what has meaning to you? And that could be your legacy project. So what would be, what is something that you want to be remembered by or for?
I think I choose my podcast. I love talking with my guests. I think it's for life.
Yeah. So there is a part of you that will live on, and I will remember speaking to you, right? And all of the people that you've impacted, who you've spoken to or who have listened. That's a beautiful legacy, to be able to connect with people in that way.
Wow. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Kathleen. I am honored.
Yeah.
It is an absolute honor to interview you today and hear all your amazing stories. Thank you so much for sharing amazing, life changing conversations.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And quick question, how can the audience reach out to you?
They could reach out to me on Instagram. I am Leanie 1995, so it's LEENIE 1995. They could also always email me if they choose, Leanie1995 @gmail. I love hearing from people, and I always try to help however I can. So if you need me, I'm here.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kathleen. I'll definitely share your socials into the podcast description. Thank you so much once again. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Sweatpants to Suits is a podcast where we dive into the journeys of career professionals, uncovering the secrets to transforming from sweatpants mode to suits success. Join us as we explore personal stories, insights, and strategies for cultivating a growth mindset and achieving your vision of success. I am your host, Jerry. Are you ready to up your game? Stay tuned. New episode releases every Tuesday.